Hello, today I'm going to teach you how to create a drop cap with a square in the background. And you can do drop caps using InDesign, but it's kind of hard to figure out how to do the actual square portion. This is something that I actually Googled how to do earlier today, and I couldn't find information that was satisfactory enough to tell me how to just do the thing. And so I decided to figure it out myself on my own and sort of hack it in my own sort of way. And there may be information out there that is telling you how to do it a different way. I have no clue because I haven't searched hard enough. But I'm sure there's more than one way to do this. But here's one way that I found to work out for myself, and I've been doing it. So first, assume that we have a block of text already laid out, and here's my previous page where I've already done the drop cap. So we go to InDesign, and we make sure that our workspace, just to be clear, is on typography, because we're working on setting the type and laying out the text. So to make sure we have the right workspace is always useful to begin. And we're going to actually go into we're going into paragraph. And there's this little drop down menu that you can barely see at the very right hand corner. And we're going to go into drop caps and nested styles. And from here, we choose how many lines we want the drop cap to go on. And I'm choosing 3 lines for this example. So a line is each line of text in a paragraph is a line. So 3 lines is a drop cap down 1, 2, 3 long. And okay. And so you see how that didn't work? It's because I didn't highlight the text. We have to actually select the text box on your menu here, the type tool, or we go to our selection tool, and we click on the text tool. Then we sort of click and drag to highlight the text. And I'm sort of like fucking up as I go, but it's a good way to learn, because when things don't work out, you try new things. And that's how I learned. That's how I learned how to do this drop cap tutorial all by myself. So, like I said, I want to do 3 lines. And see how the drop cap is going down 3 lines of text. And here's what it would look like with 4 lines, or here's what it would look like with 2 lines. But I feel like 3 is a magic number right here. So, and character is, we want 1 character because we want the O to be drop cap, the very first letter of the paragraph. And so we want just 1 character. And we hit OK. So that's your basic drop cap. That's relatively easy peasy. But how do we add this nice square shape behind it? I mean, that's a little bit more involved, right? So there's actually a different way to do it. And I'm going to Control Z to undo what I've done. I'm just showing you how to do the basic drop cap as step 1, just so you know how to do them. But to do the fancy drop cap, we're going to have to do a little bit extra work. And this is how I've found to hack the drop cap. Like I said, there may be more than one way to do this, but here's what I've found to work for myself. I'm actually adding a space right here. If you go to uncheck the overprint preview, it'll show you Well, I thought it would show you, but it's not, so never mind. But when you uncheck overprint preview, it sort of shows you your text boxes a little bit better and things that you're doing a little bit better. So sometimes when you're editing things, it's nice to do it that way. I like to check it on overprint preview just because I like how it looks like when it's by itself, but it's kind of like an advanced feature almost, just because you're not seeing what all of the things are. You're not seeing all of the boxes in the way. For me, it's like it gets in the way of my visual representation of a book layout, but for other people it might be a good way to figure out what the heck they're doing. So let's just leave it unchecked for now, just in this case. So like I said, let's highlight everything again and go to paragraph, drop caps, and nested styles. Okay, so lines should stay the same. We want 3 lines for this. But instead of 1 character, we're choosing 2 characters. So see, that's why I added the extra space, because the space still counts as a character. So let's hit OK. Now we have an extra space. And here's what I like to do to add even more space between the O and the N is go over here, the tracking, and you can see from the image that it represents the space between characters. So I want to, let's just, this is kind of the trial and error part of it, where you kind of have to see what makes sense for you. And so I've got it currently at a tracking of 200. And this might look differently for you. You might play around with it and see that another tracking works better. 200, 300, 150, who knows what it may be. Let's go into the layers. And like I said, when we've unchecked the overprint preview, we can see the text box right there, and we can see that it's green, which means it's at the layer 3. And when we lock layer 3, we can no longer edit the text box because the layer is locked, the green layer. I like to do it this way. I like to separate out my layers and lock them, just so that when I need to edit something that is going to go behind the text, I can highlight the layer that's underneath, which means it will go underneath the green layer. And let's just say I want that red box like we've done it on this page. So here's where we start to actually create the box behind the letter. And I have selected the rectangle tool. And you can click and drag whatever size you want, whatever box feels like the right size for you. And you can click your colors here. The fill color is red. Right now it's defaulting to blue as the line color. You can click on your mouse to switch to the fill or the outline. The stroke is what it's called. The stroke is defaulting as blue, but I just want to leave it as none. You can also use X as a hotkey to move back and forth between the two. I like using those little hotkey tricks. And so I want this to be none. Yeah, that's also defaulting to that blue line. And I want that to be none, or blue stroke. Let's just delete this extra box. So now we can start to see how this box is shaping up. Now it looks a little tight. This O is fitting really big around this screen. So what I want to do is fix it up even more to make it more visually appealing. You want to make sure that we have enough empty space around the outline. You see how this has a lot of good space in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the O is black, change it to paper or white. And now it's looking a little bit better, but I want the O to be smaller within the box space actually. So this is a capital O. Obviously, we capitalize things to start sentences, but for this case, I want to make it a small sized O. And I'm going to use this, the small caps feature, to make it a slightly bigger O, but also less big than a capital O. And so see how, like I said, with the trial and error of the tracking, we're going to have to, based on how things go, adjust it as we see fit. So for that previous big O, 200 worked really well, but now it looks like I need to go up to, and if you ever mess up and accidentally erase a letter, Control Z or Command Z to undo what you just did, what you just messed up on. So let's just say 400, for example. And so yeah, we have to highlight the two letters that you want to track, or else it won't work. So let's just Command Z. Like, let's an example of highlighting all of that means you track all of that, all of the things that you highlighted. So no, we don't want to highlight those. We specifically want to highlight only the O and N, to space between O and N. So that's why I've highlighted that. O. And also, when I went to paragraph, drop caps, nested styles, I forgot to tell you guys that clicking on align left edge, just so that it aligns all of this text to the left. Okay, so we've got this looking good, but we need to make the O come up a little bit more. So this is called the baseline shift at the top right here. And you just kind of have to eyeball it. So I've shifted it up 3 points. And see, this is why I like overprint preview. I like that. Having no text boxes in the way of my vision to see what it looks like. So if I eyeball it, I still want to move it up a little bit more. And like I said, you can play with it and see how it looks like on your end. Okay, this looks pretty good. But when I eyeball it, there's still a little bit off center. It looks like the space between here and here is a little bit off. It doesn't look centered. So two ways to approach this. You can obviously, let's make sure that my text layer is locked and that the blue layer, which has the box, is unlocked so that I can play with the box. So one way is to make the box smaller, obviously, to where it'll look centered, and then just adjust the tracking accordingly to the new spacing. So 330 seems to work for here. Or another option, let's take it back to where it was, which I think was 400. Another option, or let's just completely undo what I did with everything. Okay, another option is to go here in the middle with that extra space, that blank space, and do the tracking here. And make it go there. Make it shift to the right, nudge to the right until you think it's centered. And looks like I made it go a little bit too far to the right. So put it down a little bit even more to 40. So again, it's like trial and error. I'm feeling like I like the second option a little bit better, but I'm also feeling that this needs to shift a bit more too. So I'm liking the spacing of 300 a lot more. So yes, this is essentially how to make a drop cap in InDesign within a square. This is my version of doing it, and there may be other ways to do it, because there's usually more than one way to do a thing. So this is that attention to detail thing where perfectionists can really excel at. So I think it looks pretty good by now, and I hope you learned how to do a drop cap. This is Janet from janetbrent.com, and I'll see you again with another tutorial coming soon.